Hey, all right. How's it going? Hard Talk Radio. I'm your host, MrDeadman. With me tonight is C. Derek Miller. How's it going, man? How you doing?
Man, dude, that theme music is kicking.
I know,
Seriously.
right? It's the best thing about the show.
I'm sitting there. I can see my guitar out of the corner of my eye, and it's looking at me like you haven't touched me in months. And I'm like, I know.
Oh, that's a crime. That is a crime.
It's got dust on it.
Oh man, the strings are probably dusty too, huh?
Yeah, probably.
Oh, man, I hate that. I hate that when you have a guitar you haven't touched in like years. It's like it has rusted strings. Oh, that's terrible. That's terrible. Anyway, all right. So, Mr. Miller, you've been on the show before a few times. But for those who don't know who are you and what do you do?
Well, my name is Chad Cloud Miller. I write under C. Derek Miller with Death's Head Press right now. Doing some work with them, Splatter Westerns, and Hell Followed, all that good stuff. I'm also the senior writer, junior producer for Atua Productions in Dallas, currently working on a Netflix series and some other stuff. And I co-host the American Justice podcast as well as the Butterflies Make Me Angry podcast. So I do a lot.
You are a busy man. You are doing a lot. Look at that. Look at that.
Hey, you got to stay busy. You got to stay busy or this pandemic is going to drive you crazy.
Right? Oh, man, that's the truth, isn't that? Now, you've been published with Death's Head Press, which, by the way, we got to give them a shout out. I mean, Death's Head Press has been doing some amazing work right up from the gate from And Hell Follows. That was 2019, right? 2019.
That was 2019. Yeah, January of 2019. So first thing out the gate for those guys, man, and that was 2020 Splatterpunk Anthology of the Year. So
yep,
that's been a hell of a ride with those guys.
Had a great has an amazing roster. You got Wrath James White, Jeff Strand, the Sisters Slaughter, many others.
Yeah. Mike Enenbach, Chris Miller, Wiley Young, Patrick Harrison III, Kenzie Jennings. The list goes on and on.
Right, man. That's how you do it. So, and what's it like working with those guys?
You know, I met Patrick by accident. He and I are from the same like small little town in East Texas, and he hit me up one morning on I guess Messenger, and he's like, "Hey man, you know, you don't know who I am, but I'm a writer. I'm using the name of a fictional town, and I just found out that you've written books before me, and you're using the same fictional town. I mean, like, what are the odds?"
What are the odds?
He's like, and would you mind if I use the name of this town? And I'm like, absolutely not, man. And, here I was, I'd been living in this small town forever and throwing out books and trying my best to make it there. I didn't even know there was any other writers in that town. And I'm like, dude, we need to meet. We need to hook up. And, we met, we had a few beers, we talked shop, and then we continued to do so over the next couple of years. And that's when he came to me and said, hey, me and this other guy we're thinking about putting together a press, and we've got an anthology in mind, and, you want to be a part of this? Hell yeah, of course I do. He seemed like he had his stuff together. So, and he does totally. Jared Barbie, Patrick, both those guys have their stuff together, and the writers, the ones that I've met face to face, are all just like the coolest people, man. So they're good. They're good folks, man. They really are, and they know what they're doing.
Yeah, they seem very well organized, very well focused, and they have a lot of passion behind it. So, and that shows through the quality of their work and their commitment, really. Good for them. Good for them. And you know what? With them, working with them, you have a new book out, Starving Zoe. Yes. First off, why are you starving Zoe? I mean, what did she do?
Actually, the original title of this book was going to be called The Screaming of the Trees. And then I have a cat named Zoe, and we had to take her into the vet to get a teeth cleaning. And my wife said, "Oh, don't forget that we have to starve Zoe tonight because she has this vet appointment in the morning, and I'm like, Starving Zoe. That sounds like a good name for a horror title. And
Starving Zoe, yeah, that
yeah,
is.
so that's why I named it. And just without going into spoiler territory, let's just say that somebody gets left for dead, but doesn't stay dead long.
So there's a zombie sort of element to this book, an undead.
She's a Navajo skinwalker. This
Oh,
is
even better.
it's a
See,
splatter western, so it takes place in 1865, and she gets turned into a Navajo skinwalker,
see,
which
that's
we don't really know much about because the Navajo are forbidden to speak of skinwalkers.
right,
So
right, right. So you could do a lot with it. You could do a lot with it.
yeah, definitely.
Now, what was it like working on Starving Zoe? Sorry, I said Starving for Zoe, but it's Starving Zoe. What was it like working on that?
Starving Zoe is very, very divisive. I stand behind this 100%. My books are like my children. I love Starving Zoe, but it's very divisive. When I was looking for influence, I had never read a splatterpunk book before. With the exception, I think, of Patrick Harrison III's Inferno Bound and the Hellhounds. But I was reaching out to the Death's Head Press guys, and I said, "Look, man, I've never really read a lot of splatterpunk, and here I am. I've just agreed to write a splatterpunk western." I was like, "Who do I need to look at? Who is the king among us that I need to look at?" And pretty much unanimously, everyone said I needed to read Header by Ed Lee.
Oh, okay, that's good.
So my first real splatterpunk experience was Header by Ed Lee, and I loved it. I had the pleasure of meeting that guy like while I was in the middle of reading that book, so it was very surreal. So I read Header, and then I read Catcher in the Rye because I had been bugged so much throughout my adult life for never reading Catcher in the Rye. It was required reading for some people, but it wasn't for me. It wasn't for
school.
me.
Yeah. Okay.
And I hated that book because I guess, here I am in my mid 40s, and it was a little bit too whiny for me. I'm a father, I'm a grandfather, and I'm like, Holden Caulfield is just a whiny little bastard. But I loved the way that the book was written. I love the way that J.D. Salinger narrated it through Holden Caulfield's mind. Basically, it's just this guy yammering on forever and ever and repeating himself, and just you spend the entire book inside of the guy's head. And I'm like, man, I know half of the people that read this are probably going to hate it, but just as a kind of homage to J.D. Salinger, I would love to do a horror novel in that same style of narration.
Yeah.
And then I reread Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas right before I started Starving Zoe too. So the Hunter S. Thompson narration that's kind of in there too. And Starving Zoe was kind of an experiment, really.
Interesting.
I tried to go a little artsy with it, and some people aren't happy with it, but others love it. It's divisive. That art is divisive.
It's going to be divisive, though. It's hard. We're talking about hard. Especially, it sounds like in your book, you're spending the time with the character in their head. But I guess this particular character is kind of flawed, if you will, kind of a bad guy.
Very much. There are no heroes in this book.
No heroes in this book. So he's most definitely
just like
a bad
real
dude.
life.
Just like real life, right?
Life. There's no heroes in real life.
Right. Okay. So you're spending your time with this character who is not a good guy. He's a bad guy. He has flaws. Does he have some winning qualities?
He, as well as I for writing him, he has been accused of being a racist. He has been accused of being violent toward women, children, animals, as men were in 1865. So, it's period correct. So,
oh yeah, people are still like that now. You could.
Yeah, some of them still are.
Man, see, Derek Miller, you could still write a book about that stuff now, and it'll still be relevant. You're right. But it was more in your face than more commonplace.
Very much so.
at the same time, though, even though he was a bad guy, a racist, sounds like probably maybe a misogynist. I don't know if he hates women, but he's definitely attacking them, definitely beating them, definitely no respect. But even a racist, even a degenerate, even an asshole can open the door and say and be polite every once in a while,
Right.
and you'll never know. You'll be like, "Oh, that was a nice guy."
This guy, I mean, you learn in the very first chapter his backstory, because it's almost written like you're reading this guy's journal. But his backstory is that he was an Irish immigrant that was brought to America against his will, and an orphan and forced to live on the streets of Boston back then by the only means he knew how, which was to be, kind of a murderer for hire. And then he moved on to New York City to bigger and better things until he got in over his head and kind of had to go hide out in the New West. So this guy has just had a bad life from the very, very beginning. And then he gets recruited into the Confederate Army.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And so his life has just been a living hell from birth until now. And he knows nothing else. And you spend the entire book inside this. He's a psychopath, and you spend the entire book inside his head, narrated through his eyes. There are only 2 characters in this entire book, sometimes 3. There is a third that kind of pops in every now and then, but it's mostly the main character, Robert Jack, and Zoe.
Oh wow!
It's cat and mouse.
So it's very personal.
Very cerebral.
Okay.
Yes, very personal, very cerebral.
Oh, okay.
And like I said, there's a lot of folks that don't like it, but I love it.
Well, it sounds like some of those folks really don't like spending a lot of time with a troubled individual, a problematic individual, which I understand. But we're talking about a fictional character. This actually kind of reminds. This kind of reminds me. Oh, I was say this kind of reminds me of like shows like, let's say, like Sopranos or whatever. Tony was a horrible person, but you spent most of the time with Tony, and every now and then there's one moment, there's a few sliver of moments where it's like, well, maybe you'll do something good. He's an evil bastard, but sometimes you hope maybe there's some humanity in him. That's why someone like me clings on to like a bad character.
If there's anyone in the literary world that needs validation that our readers do not read the dedication page of our books, I read Edward Lee, Hunter S. Thompson, and J.D. Salinger in the same week. This is the result. There's your Surgeon General's warning right there.
Right. There you go.
Nobody reads our dedication page.
No one reads them. And you know what? And trigger warnings are a waste of time because they'll be triggered by the trigger warning. It's like,
right.
Come on now. Come on. So let's get into that a little bit. I mean, some people are bothered by this, upset by this book. So far, I'm sold on it. It sounds like something very compelling. First off, here's the real reason why. It's Death's Head Press. They have not put out anything that has been disappointing yet. I mean, they're good.
No, they're amazing.
Yeah, everyone part of this whole project, the Splatter Western thing, is great. I wish I was more organized and actually had everyone that was involved in it had been interviewed by this point. That would have been so cool. But things work the way they do. But so Starving Zoe, I have no doubt that it's going to be an amazing book. So I'll definitely purchase my copy tonight. So that's definitely what's going to happen. So you're at least going to get one purchase here out of this,
nice.
Interview, this conversation. But it sounds like a very compelling book. It sounds. I like complicated characters. I like characters that are dirty, that reflect reality.
It is different, and in the grand scheme of things, my wife, who is turning more and more into a writing partner every day, she came behind me and did the editing and the fact checking to make sure that language and objects and things were around in the year 1865. And there were several times where she got up from reading this book when it was still in the early, draft stages. She got up several times and said, "You need to crank it up. You need to crank up the violence. You need to. This is a splatterpunk book. You need to make this a splatterpunk book." And so I did. I went as extreme as one can go, and I just maybe they just don't write them like that anymore, man. I don't know.
On that note, being a splatterpunk book, let's talk about that real fast. Now, for those who don't know, what really defines splatterpunk? I think blood, I think violence, I think ultra-violence.
Violence, ultra-violence, blood, gore. I mean that was the Wikipedia definition when I first got invited to be a part of the Splatter Western series. I'm like, well, what defines a splatterpunk novel? And it's extreme violence, extreme gore, just basically what the Death's Head Press guys, turned me on to. Basically, Edward Lee. And so that's why I went to his catalog first. And since Starving Zoe has been released, there's been some guys that have sent me screenshots of some of the really horrible reviews that Edward Lee has gotten over the years, as well. But it depends on what kind of reader you are. Some people in the horror, they like to read horror, but they don't like to read the really, really triggering extreme stuff. And I don't know. I surely didn't mean to offend anybody, but
right.
I also did mean to hit the mark.
Exactly.
It's a splatter. The word splatter is in the title.
When I think of splatter,
as splattery as I could.
Especially a splatter Western, I expect C. Derek Miller to bring blood by the gallons, blood and violence by the gallons. Did you do that? Did you saturate the desert?
There is some very disturbing imagery in this book. One reviewer told me that they almost threw up on the fourth page. So that was I took pride in that, actually.
That's good.
But I think a lot of people's problem with it is the narration style, and this is like my personal nod to Holden Caulfield. This is my personal nod to Catcher in the Rye, and you either like it or you don't.
Someone in the chat referenced South Park throwing up from reading. Episode with that. They did. What's up, Cool Tactic? How's it going? All right. So, yeah, like I said, to blend splatterpunk and Western, how was that for you? Was that difficult?
Man, I'd never written a Western. I'd never even thought about writing a Western. I'm not a huge fan of Western movies. I mean, we don't get them much anymore. But as a kid, I didn't spend a lot of time sitting in my dad's lap in the recliner watching Gunsmoke and stuff like that. And over the years, I guess you've gotten a few good ones. You've gotten Tombstone and things like that. But
Tombstone, I didn't know. Was a classic.
Oh,
That's God, timeless, man.
And I didn't know if I was going to be able to pull it off. I'm like, my God, there's so much can be. I can write horror. I can write blood and gore. But can I write Western? And maybe that was part of it too. Maybe that's why I kind of reached into the psychotic part of it, because maybe I couldn't write tame Western. I don't know. I had an uncle that had who's the big Western writer? How do you say? Is it Louis L'Amour or Louis L'Amour? How do you say?
I think you're asking the wrong guy for that one. I'm not sure. Chat. Who's the big Western author? Google that.
I'm not sure. I know that's his name. I'm just not sure how you pronounce it correctly. I had an uncle who owned every single one of that guy's books, and just he wrote little novellas. It's like this guy spit one out once a week, man. Just it is definitely when I tag it on social media, the hashtag is not Pawpaw's paperback. So, and it's damn true.
Like it. Yeah.
It's damn true. There's a lot of Western novels over the years. They've been aimed at old people, old men. Just that's the way I've always looked at them. Or you see them on sale mostly at like truck stops. So you're thinking like truckers or and This is definitely not Pawpaw's paperback,
No,
not by a
no,
long shot.
no. It doesn't sound like it. Not with the gallons of blood you're bringing, with the violence and the visceral, just guttural action, man.
I don't want to go into too much detail because it is totally spoiler territory, but yeah, there is some very disturbing imagery in this book. It is not meant for your Sunday school class. I wouldn't read it at the Christmas pageant if I were you. It is what it is.
Well,
you know.
One thing I like to do on the show, you've been here a few times, I do like to get a tease. Like, what is, maybe not the most extreme thing, but what is something you can give us? Something you can drop on us?
Do you know what degloving is?
Where you take someone's hands off, like the skin of their hands?
No, that's like peeling their penis like a banana.
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
Peeling their penis like a banana.
Oh, dude, that would be a 5-star rating right there.
Yeah. And
man, God.
That's not even the worst thing in the book, man.
I read the first book in the series with the Wiley
the magpie coffin.
Oh
yes.
God, the part, I thought the part where he stuffs the guy into a buffalo was bad.
That was brilliant. That was brilliant. I've the first 4 Splatter westerns, which I guess was Magpie Coffin, Hunger on the Chisholm Trail, Dust, and The Night Silver River Run Red. I read all 4 of those books in one sitting each. Like, took just a few hours and went completely through them. I haven't been able to do that with the last 2, which is A Savage Breed by Patrick Harrison and Red Station by Kenzie Jennings. I have both the Kindle and the physical copy of both of those books, but I just have not had the time to sit and read them. And I'm just, oh man, I feel like I dropped the ball because I was doing so well.
Well, probably distracted, maybe something else on your mind, but definitely they're fast reads. They're good reads.
They are.
They're gripping.
They're really fast. I believe. I think it's a tie between mine and Kenzie's, which one may be the shortest. There were some people that complained that mine was too short. I want to say mine's right at about 40,000 words.
Okay.
Which is, it's novella territory.
It's novella, yeah, it's fine.
But then, you got guys like, I want to say that Christopher Triana's Splatter Western is going to be maybe the last one or the next to the last one released, and that guy just went crazy with the word count. So
yeah, man, it's been a while since I read any of his stuff, but I mean,
he's such a good dude, man. He's an overachiever, but he's a good dude.
He is. He's cool. He's cool to talk to. He's pretty chill. Let's see. So I'm going to drop the link to the book in the chat. You guys can take a look here. You can take a look at it if you're interested on it. It sucks that some people rate it 1 star because it hurt their feelings, or because it was too violent or too gruesome or whatever. And let's talk about hurt feelings for a second, because I do harp on this quite a bit on this show, because it comes up quite a bit, because we're in the business of horror, okay? And horror, it's going to offend you. I mean, you're going to have characters that are going to be assholes. First off, they're murderers. They're murderers. Right. Sometimes they might be rapists, or they're just bad people. They're just bad people. You're not celebrating it. You're writing about it because it's just a fact of life. It happens. Jesus.
Well, I've decided through trial and error and the advice of a lot of people in the industry to just stop reading reviews.
Yes.
Because it's those are for sales, or what those are. Those are for the readers to argue about whatever. Right. It's not for the writers. And it's really hard for me to learn this. It's I've been doing this, I think, a long time. 14 years is quite a while. I mean, not as long as some, but not as short as others. And just, it's always something I've obsessed over. I've always obsessed over reviews, and it's just something I'm going to have to teach myself to stop, because, yeah, I know some people get triggered from reading, but what those people writing those very horrible personal reviews don't understand is the people who wrote these books, no matter what the book was about, these are normal people too.
Right.
And they have feelings, and they do take offense to like personal attacks and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, you've got some that, you know, I mean, hell, we're writers. We're all depressed.
Yeah, right.
You know? We all have like anxiety and depression issues. I mean, you know, maybe your inconsiderate review was a trigger for us. You never know.
Right,
I mean,
right.
I'm not gonna lie. After 24 hours after this book released, and I woke up and I saw this 1-star review by someone who just obviously only went a couple of chapters in. I mean, it put me in a very deep depression for weeks. And on top of living in lockdown and a pandemic, on top of that, I'm not gonna lie, man. I'm a tough dude. You know, I'm a tough dude. I'm a veteran. You know, I spent 13 years of my life in law enforcement. I'm somebody's father. I'm somebody's grandfather. And just reading those words, especially something that described a piece of art I created, that I put my time, my heart, and effort into, for someone to just be that just disgusting about a piece of art I created, it was depressing.
Right. And not only that, but they went personal with it though, right? They took the offensive characters, the offensive story, whatever, and then they somehow attributed that to you as if the character is a reflection of your personal beliefs, which is totally fucked up.
Right. I got accused of being racist, which I am furthest from, without going into too much personal detail. That I am obviously abusive towards, you know, women and animals, which I'm sure my wife, my daughters, my granddaughter, and my cat would disagree. You know, just it was hurtful is what it was. Right. And this is where some of the guys that I work with pretty often, some of the Death's Head Press guys and some people outside of there too, just, you know, like, they're like, man, you got to stop reading your reviews. Mm-hmm. You got to stop obsessing over that, because you can't control people. First of all, if they like it, yay. If they didn't like it, then move on, you know. But, and that's this is the new challenge right now, is to just turn my head and walk away.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Besides, you know, like, they don't even know you personally. They're just taken from some fictional character, something you wrote. You know, imagine if Stephen King was being, you know, imagine if some of his earlier works were being published today. You know, they would have a problem with it. You know, just it alone.
Yeah.
There's a child. There's a child, not really a gangbang, a child trained. They're running. These kids are running train on this other girl.
Right. Like some of the things that I've been accused of for writing this book, that's one of the things I compared it to. I'm like, does Stephen King dress as a clown and murder children and hang out in the sewers? I mean, this is basically the same thing. Right. So, you know, we're writers. We make up shit for a living.
Mm-hmm. And how many times does King use bitch and whore and
oh yeah, that was,
you know, I could say it in context here, but I'm not. But you know, read a Stephen King book out loud. Eat a Stephen King book out loud, and you'd be saying it. You know,
when I was accused of racism, it wasn't toward the black race. Actually, it was toward Native Americans, which I find hilarious, since both of my grandfathers were full-blood Native American, and I've actually been on the reservation before. So, you know, again, people don't know who you really are. They can only speculate.
Right, and that's one thing about this book as well. Like, let's get into that, because one thing I want to talk about here tonight is doing Undead right, because I kind of caught it like an Undead zombie vibe from this book, and it's like, it's something you can still do. You just have to change it up a little bit, around some originality to it. And you in this book, it has a skinwalker,
right?
A skinwalker. So, what sort of research did you have to go into in preparation to write that?
There's really nothing you can do. I mean, the Navajo culture is not allowed to speak about that stuff outside of their own circles. So I just kind of made it all up.
That's fair. That's fair.
That's all you can do. I mean, I read like witness accounts of, like supposed skinwalker attacks and a few like legends that had been translated by, people who have overheard things. And I kind of looked over some of that and just wrote my own lore, really, because we don't have the luxury of a vampire or a werewolf, not like that matters anymore.
Right.
That's all been changed.
Dude, the moment they started glittering in the sun is like, okay, come on now. I guess anything can happen. Jesus.
I've avoided those movies like the plague, but they were recently given to me as a gift.
Can you imagine?
So I'm slowly working my way through them.
Oh, you're slowly working your way through Twilight?
I'm going to make it through those movies.
Dude,
look, man,
I would rather read your book about degloving than read Twilight. I don't think I've ever read Twilight in my life.
I'm watching the films. Hopefully it's like Harry Potter. They leave a lot out. I'm making my way through the films, and they're ridiculous. they are so ridiculous, man. The minute that guy started sparkling in the sunlight, I'm like, I'm so done. But I promised I would watch these.
Who did you promise? Your daughter?
I promised myself.
Oh,
I promised.
The things you promised to yourself. Oh, it's like
I know, and you can't break a promise to yourself.
It's to build strength. Is that what it is? To test your resolve.
That's what it is. That's what it is. This
I
is
like that. And to experiment. See what they're all into. Be like, man, what was the deal with this movie? Why?
It's tough, but we've had some really slim pickings with the horror during the pandemic. A lot of them that they released onto streaming were just really less than stellar. And then there's a couple I've seen since the lockdown and since the movie theaters have been basically dead that really surprised me by how good they were. Like Underwater. I don't know if you've seen that.
I did not see that. I saw the previews, but it didn't look like it was going to be all that good. But then I heard there was like a Lovecraft element into it, but I was like,
right.
What?
Right. And it does have Kristen Stewart, which takes right back to the Twilight thing. But she does spend about the last 15 or 20 minutes of the movie running around in her underwear, so it makes up for it.
There you go. There's that.
You got to have goals,
Wait,
man.
Isn't she in underwater? Is she in the water in her underwear?
Once she gets back into like one of those little underwater research facilities.
Okay. There you go. I mean,
she's running around in her.
Sometimes fan service can help balance out, and maybe you'll be like remembered as like a B movie of that time.
Maybe I don't know if there's anybody out there that really voted to see Kristen Stewart in her underwear for 20 minutes because she's the Twilight girl. But now that I did spend 20 minutes watching her run around in her underwear, I was glad that I did.
Right. Okay. Oh man, yeah, you're right. The horror selection has been kind of less than stellar, and so you have to kind of dig at the bottom of the barrel for whatever's there.
Definitely.
Watching old movies like Chopping Mall, like I watched the other day, or watching Tremors, which not bad. Right.
Yeah. I'm married to a woman that she'd never watched a horror movie in her life until we started dating. So I'm still bringing her up to speed on everything. So, I'm trying to get a lot of them out of the way that most people consider them to be horrible, but I have like some love for them. Like Halloween 3 or something like that.
Halloween 3, man, that is one. It doesn't get the love it deserves. Like
it does not. It's the title. It's the title that throws everybody off. If they would have just called it Season of the Witch, it would be one of those classics, those 80s classics. But because they titled it Halloween with that plan to do a different theme for every Halloween movie, and that fell through. Because they chose to call it Halloween, people dump on it. But it's actually, as far as low budget 80s horror goes, it's one of my favorites.
Right? It's not bad at all. In fact,
No.
and had they stuck to their guns and said, you know what, look, I know the third one's gonna take a dip because it doesn't have Michael Myers in it, but if we keep on going on this trend, then people will probably catch on that each Halloween afterwards is gonna just be another kind of movie around Halloween, and it'd be cool. It'd be like an American Horror Story sort of thing.
Yeah. It's not too late. I mean, Hollywood has obviously run out of original ideas. And why they don't get led to the indie community looking for material is beyond me. I guess they don't want to take those chances.
Right?
Chances cost money.
There's a gold mine right there. There's so many good stories in the indie scene,
really
man.
Is.
Like
there really is. I can tell you right now, I would love to make a film of Wiley Young's Catfish in the Cradle. I think that would just be the creepiest damn book ever. But there's a ton of them. Even these splatter westerns, man. There's just flip through Netflix for 5 minutes of your day and look at the amount of crap that they are offering people. Yet people are watching.
Mm-hmm.
I think a splatter western series on Netflix would kill.
And that splatter western thing. Going back to that a little bit. That blend of horror, splatter punk, and western. That's something you don't see too much of. Like. Honestly, it's hard to really think of like even just Western horrors. The only thing I really think of is like, was it? Damn it! What the fuck is that movie? Tomahawk. Bone Tomahawk.
Yeah. There was one that came out over the summer called The Pale Door.
Was that any good?
From the trailer, it looked like it was going to be low budget good, and then I think somewhere along the way. 2020 happened and it lost a lot of what it was supposed to be. But, I mean, leaving these movies canned and sitting on the shelves is costing these studios tons of money.
Mm-hmm.
So things are getting released when they're not necessarily finished, when they're not up to, I guess, the director's vision. I mean, they're just releasing things. There's been a lot of movies I've seen and that were released straight to streaming since the pandemic that I can tell that they weren't necessarily finished.
Yeah,
I mean, I love I love the third Bill and Ted movie for what it was worth, but it looked like they wanted to do something different with it in places. And I mean, you can't really do that.
Nope.
I mean, everybody, we can't even go to a bar and have a drink right now.
Right.
Can you imagine what it's like trying to finish a movie?
Dude, yeah. That's fucking crazy, and that's true, man. They're gonna have to break out more green screens. I mean, that's what they have to do. I mean,
I did hear that they just wrapped filming on what is supposed to be the final Jurassic Park film.
They say
that's gonna have.
Oh,
it's supposed to be. It's
the
supposed
final
to be.
one. Okay.
It's supposed to be. Actually, it's gonna have all the cast from the original film as well as the cast from the newer one. So you're gonna have Chris Pratt, Jeff Goldblum, Sam Neill, Laura Dern. They're all in it, and they just recently wrapped filming, and they treated it like the NHL playoffs. They all kind of lived in a bubble while they were filming this movie. And I believe they went through over 40,000 COVID tests from beginning to end in this filming, just to kind of keep it under control.
And those COVID tests are crazy too, because sometimes you hear stories someone gets a positive, but then they get a negative, but then it's a positive again. It's like,
have you had one yet? Have you had one?
No, I haven't.
I've had 3.
Oh, I have had 0. And with my line of work, with what I do, my day job, I have so much contact with families, all sorts of different families.
Right.
I'm in their homes and all that stuff. Dude, I wouldn't be surprised if I have it. I just don't have any symptoms. Dude, I don't know.
I'm convinced that I had it this time last year. I'm convinced that it was actually in the United States a couple of months before they reported it to be. And this time last year, I was sicker than I'd ever been in my entire life. And it lasted for 3 whole weeks. Every single one of the symptoms that go along with COVID, the difficulty breathing. I I even ended up going to the emergency room one night, and they gave me a flu test, and they're like, "You don't have the flu," and I'm like, "Well, what the hell is it?" And they had no idea.
And that's that's a theory that my neighbors had like earlier this year. It's like he was like, when we were out talking, it's like, we might have already had it before because all of our kids were like almost like not deathly sick, but really sick all together, like this strange flu, and we've all were sick too. So this block, we've been. It's like, what lockdown? We've been hanging out, drinking beers. It's like King of the Hill over here all the fucking time.
Yeah, but I've been told that I should probably go get an antibody test just to see if that was actually it. But I'm convinced it was. I'd never been that sick in my life, and I'm 46 years old. I've got quite a bit of life behind me, and I've never been that sick before. And like I smoke an e-cig. I didn't touch that thing for a week. I was having so much trouble breathing. I set it down for an entire week and did not care.
I think I've had a cigar. I think
that's how
you're testing your lungs. See, I've been testing my lungs with these cigars just about every day. I've had a cigar since. I think I've been testing them, making sure they're good and strong, and they're still good and strong, Mr. Miller. And they're still strong. There
was an upside. There was an upside to having COVID this time last year. When I went to the midnight screening of Rise of Skywalker, I slept through most of it.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's the only good way to see that movie. Anything good about Star Wars right now is like The Mandalorian.
Yeah, I was glad that your show wasn't starting until later this evening because I got to watch the new episode before we began recording.
I see. I'm saying, oh, that's nice. That's nice. That's good. I mean, that's one thing that's helped me,
yeah,
during this lockdown.
Yeah, it's a great show. The new episode tonight was directed by Robert Rodriguez. So,
Nice. Oh, which, by the way, you mentioned something at the start of the stream that you're working on something for Netflix. Can you talk about that? Like,
Sure. It's something that we're working on that we're going to be pitching to Netflix. Everything looks favorable up to now. It's a true crime documentary. I'm the co-host of the American Justice podcast.
American Justice
True Crime.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a true crime documentary series that we're calling Texas Injustice.
Ooh, nice.
And it's about the 2009 conviction of someone from the North Texas area by the name of Brandon Woodruff, who was accused and convicted of murdering both of his parents, although there was never any evidence. The platform that the investigators and the prosecutors basically rode on was the fact that he was living a secret homosexual lifestyle, and they actually use these words: if he can lie about being gay, then he can lie about killing his parents.
Whoa, those are two different lies, man.
And the trial took place in my hometown of Greenville, Texas, which is a very, very conservative community. At one time, it had more churches per capita than any other city in the United States. It also used to have a sign that hung across the main street that said, "Welcome to Greenville, the blackest land, the whitest people." It hung there until the late 60s.
Wow, that's a little on the nose there, huh? It's like,
Yeah.
Oh, guys, you think there's something wrong with the sign? What do you mean?
Yeah, it's a hell of a town, man. It's about an hour northeast of Dallas. So, yeah, you can find all this and more on Google. It's free and in your pocket.
Oh man, that is crazy. But yeah, so that guy was charged or convicted. Was he executed too?
No, he was sentenced to life without parole.
Oh man.
So, and the jury, I've even listened to jury conversations in doing all this research for this film, where the jury is arguing with the attorneys during jury selection. They're arguing because they're mad because the death penalty is not on the table. Like, they so can't wait to kill somebody. They're upset that they're not gonna get to decide whether or not he lives or dies.
Now, to play devil's advocate. I mean, not to say really that because he lied about being gay, he lied about killing his parents. What if he just lied about killing his parents? I mean, was he the only person in the house?
It's such a complicated story. Like the entire first season to the American Justice podcast is dedicated to this particular case. Every season is going to be a new case. The first season is this case. There are the audio episodes. If you go to their YouTube channel, not only can you listen to the audio episodes, but when they're playing the audio portions of like witness interviews or anything like that, they actually show the actual video from the case. Like we've gotten records, videos, we've gotten crime scene video, we've got everything, and we show this on the YouTube channel. And we also, every other episode is a video Q&A where myself and the director and co-host Scott Pogansey, where we answer people's questions from email or phone, and we go very, very deep into the case.
That's pretty good. That's good stuff. And true crime podcasts, man, true crime shows, they're still right. Hot. I mean,
yeah, they are. They totally are. So yeah, what we're really trying to do is bring enough attention to this case to where somebody with some power hears about it and they feel as strongly about this guy's innocence as we do, and they want to get involved and somehow get this guy out of prison. He was arrested in 2005. He was convicted in 2009. When he was arrested, he was 5 weeks into his freshman year of college.
Right. Okay. Now, was he going to college abroad? Like, was he?
He was going to college in Abilene.
Okay, he was in Abilene, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And he lived in Greensville, right?
Or actually it's Royce City, Texas.
Okay,
in between Dallas and East Texas.
So he wasn't even home when his parents.
He had come home for the weekend. He had come home for the weekend. I'm telling you, it's a very long, complicated story. I'm not trying to sell the podcast, but if you want to know, it's on there.
I know. Definitely. Oh man, I could Google right now and drop a link in the chat. That'd be good too. Because you're the co-host of the podcast. Might as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah, might as well. What is it called? He said Injustice.
The podcast is called American Justice. The American Justice Podcast.
All right, I'll look for that right here. All right. And you are trying to pitch this to Netflix, and everything looks good.
Yeah, we're working on the pilot episode right now for the pitch. We're just waiting on some vaccines maybe to get some people together.
Right. Let's see, Stitcher, American Justice Podcast on Stitcher.
Yeah, it's on Stitcher. It's on Pandora.
Here's the website.
Yeah, there's a website for it. The best way to listen is on YouTube because
that's the best way.
You will actually get to see the videos when we play video clips, and you'll get to see the video Q&A. So YouTube would be your best bet under the American Justice Podcast. They have their own channel.
Okay, let me go ahead and share this here. This is the website, and I will go find it on YouTube as well. Okay, well, I'll do that. Let me shift gears here real fast. We talked about horror movies a little bit, but what is your, well, I think you might have answered this. What is your favorite horror movie and why?
My favorite horror movie, man. I get asked this a lot. You're a horror writer. What's your favorite horror movie? And I think it depends on what mood I'm in. A lot of the times I go with The Shining as my favorite horror movie. And it might very well be. I actually teared up a little during Doctor Sleep when I went and saw it in the theater. So I think there's a very special place in my heart for the Overlook Hotel. Not necessarily any particular character in The Shining, although Jack Nicholson is wonderful in that film. Maybe just the hotel itself. The hotel had a hell of a personality.
Oh yeah, the hotel was as much of a character as everything else. It had a personality to it.
Now, if you ask me what my favorite werewolf film would be, I'd say American Werewolf in London. But horror overall, I believe that The Shining is probably my favorite, and it has very little to do with the director and just the controversy or skill or level or whatever that goes along with him, or the fact that Stephen King really hated that movie compared to his book. Just the overall story itself, the hotel, the setting is just fantastic.
It was a great setting, a good place, and it's a good movie. It's a good movie, and it's a shame that Stephen King didn't care for it because it was pretty good. Yeah, I mean, I guess he was torn up about something, conflicted about how characters were portrayed, but man, it did well. It did better than some of his. It did better than some of his movies, like The Cell, which was horrible.
Oh, yeah, right. We have a new Thanksgiving tradition where my wife and I watch Maximum Overdrive after we eat turkey. But but as a writer, I think about this a lot. The 1 in a million chance comes along that a studio wants to purchase the film rights to my work, and what happens? I mean, you obviously don't have any, if maybe a little, but any creative control over what the movie studio is going to do.
Right.
And what happens if they ruin it? I have a book that I wrote 10 years ago called A Taste of Home. It's a werewolf novel. I recently re-released it. The contract had run out on it with the original publisher, and I self-published, re-released it. It's called A Taste of Home, and it's a werewolf story that takes place in Texas. And I had a Bollywood film producer reach out to me about 3 years ago.
Bollywood, like India.
Yes.
Okay.
And he wanted to buy the film rights from me, and the money was just. It was nothing. I mean, I could have bought a new car with it, but that was about it.
I'm curious what they would have done with it now. Let's turn into a Bollywood musical, man.
Yeah, I didn't really want. I knew that's what was going to happen to it. I mean, even if it wasn't a musical, even if it was a Bollywood werewolf movie,
dude, I want to see. I want to see a Bollywood werewolf movie based on Derek Miller. Man, we could have had that. I want that reality now.
I didn't want to do it because it's not who those characters were when I wrote them. I have a lot of love for those characters, and that wasn't who they were.
You mean they weren't Indian?
They weren't Indian. They're small town Texas rednecks, and that's what I want them to be if that is ever turned into a film. So I had that one shot, and I turned it down. I chose the art over the money,
and that's fair, and that's smart. At the same time, though, some people are able to negotiate. I mean, somehow J.K. Rowling got her way into it to where she started calling shots. Makes me wonder why Stephen King doesn't really do that. Like even with Dark Tower, where were you, King? How come you couldn't call shots with that? I mean, I
haven't seen that film yet. I don't have to watch it.
Chris Miller
has
claims
seen it
it's the best movie ever. Is Dark Tower the best movie ever?
I've never seen it. I just I don't know, man. The internet is full of people who love to review movies, and sometimes they're really hard to avoid. And after I watched like 5 reviews for that film, I said, you know what, I'll just skip it.
Right. After Red Letter Media trashes it, yeah, I'm pretty good. Right.
Like I won't even watch it if it's free. Like if it came on like network television, I probably wouldn't even watch it. Just
right.
It's the same reason I don't want to watch a Bollywood Texas werewolf film.
Although I am a little curious. I am so curious. Okay. And do you have anything that you're working on now, like besides the Netflix thing? But anything? You have another story, another book coming out?
I had an idea the other night. I'm very tied up with the production company right now, but I did have an idea the other night. It was one of those jump up out of bed in the middle of the night and start writing things down ideas that is actually a Starving Zoe sequel that takes place 100 years in the future.
Nice.
So
we get to starve her again. You have to starve Zoe again. Wow.
Well, I mean, you can starve somebody, feed them, and then starve them again. That's, it can be done, but less of a sequel and more of a kind of spinoff to be told in a traditional third-person narrative with multiple characters and stories, and you don't spend the entire time in a psychopath's head.
Now, I'm going to wrap up pretty soon, Mr. Miller, but before I do, there was a good question in the chat from Glans. Why do you guys think The Ring was such a scary movie for its time?
I was not one of those people. Like I said, I'm 46 years old, so The Ring came out, mid 90s maybe, or early 2000s? I don't remember when that movie came out. But I was already well into adulthood when it came out, and in the middle of raising multiple children, and there's nothing scarier than that. I did not find The Ring or any other horror movie really that came out in that time period to be scary. It's almost like there was right around that time was like Hollywood forgot how to scare us.
Right.
And maybe it's because some of the best horror writers are actually working in video games right now. Because some of those scare the crap out of me.
Dude, yeah, like those horror video games, dude, there's some of them I cannot even play. I'm like, yeah, fuck this. I cannot. Like the ones where you can't even defend yourself. All you have is a video camera. And then want you to run and hide from crackheads.
Outlast,
that one right there, Outlast.
Alien Isolation, those games scare the crap out of me. But I think that's why I force myself to play them.
I cannot even play Outlast. When you have to run and hide from crackheads, it's like, dude, you could just grab an iron pipe and beat the shit out of them.
Right.
Dude, come on now.
All you have is your camera.
No, it's not even realistic. You can't take a shot. Come on. But okay, I wasn't even scared of The Ring either. The Ring was like nothing, but I thought it was kind of silly. But there's a lot of people who like it. I mean, you like it, you like it. I get that. I get the cursed videotape, VHS. You play it, it's cursed, right, and the chick will come out of the well, come through your TV. Okay.
I don't recall the last film that scared me. I don't recall it. I take that back. I think I do. I think I do recall the last time I actually felt scared in a movie, and then a few seconds later, you were just totally let down, and that was the Blair Witch Project.
Yes.
I think when that film was first released, we're talking, I'm probably my mid-20s, 4 years into a military career. You go to watch that film, you're sitting there with your wife, it's Halloween, movie scared the crap out of me, and then it didn't.
Right. There's so much buildup for that movie, man.
Oh yeah, marketing.
Yes, God. The Blair Witch Project. It became it became a classic in a way because of the marketing. The marketing was so good. I mean, it seemed like it was real. Oh my God, this thing is real.
Well, that's the way they marketed it to begin with. They made a faux documentary about the legend of the Blair Witch, and like the Discovery Channel was actually playing that documentary I think right between the time the film was released and maybe the video release, when a lot of people still thought that it was a real thing. I mean, the internet was still very young back then.
It was.
I mean, we didn't all communicate about films and things like that like we do now. All you had was your buddies, your word of mouth, those people closest to you. And so there were quite a few people in the world that thought this was actually found footage. It was real. And it scared the crap out of those people, as did me, because at the time when I first saw it, I was under the impression that there was still some discussion whether or not that it was real found footage, and it scared the crap out of me.
Right? I mean, there's still people now that wonder if there's any truth to it, or maybe it was a cover. Like XXX Games mentioned, I heard a theory that the kids made up the witch story to kill her. Oh wow,
man,
well, maybe that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, there's a story right there. There's $1 million book idea right there to write about the conspiracy theory of the Blair Witch Project.
Yeah, right. man, I mean, oh god dang.
But it was such a build up and then such a letdown. I think that was the last time that a film ever scared me. Like that, I believe that film may have ruined me.
Yeah, I'm with you there, man. I don't remember the last time I was really, really scared either. Other than the horror video game Outlast, I will scream like a little girl.
I used to live stream my Outlast speed runs, and there were several times that I had to like shut down the PlayStation and jump onto Twitch very fast to delete my video because of things I said out loud when I died during those live streams.
Some gamer words, some things you said. Okay, I get that. I get that. See, there would not be a speed run with me. There would be a very quick stream followed by a lot of profanity and a bunch of like cussing and all. It'd be hilarious in its own right. Like, what the fuck? Like a game like, what was it? Condemned, Criminal Origins, where you can grab pipes and beat the shit out of people. That game was a little bit more realistic. You can just grab things. Or even
Resident Evil. Silent Hill, the original Silent Hill.
Yeah. Now that's a good example of a scary game that, you can defend yourself a little bit here. I hate it when they just restrict you like that. It's like, come on.
It's basically a giant, scary 3D version of Pac-Man. You run around a maze, and
your I guess your power pellets are just hiding.
Yeah, you're hiding, or your batteries for your camera. Watching someone play them is pretty interesting, but I've seen YouTube videos of people hooked up to heart monitors while they play like Alien Isolation in a dark room, and I'm just
people would think we'd be having a heart attack over here.
No,
that's a good idea though.
There's enough going on in the world to give you a heart attack without subjecting yourself to it.
Man, this has been a lot of fun, Mr. Miller. It's great talking to you.
Yeah,
you're easy to talk to. Get you anytime.
It's been a long time, man. It's been a long time since we've chatted.
It has been. It's been good to catch up, talk about what's going on with your project with Netflix. Hopefully goes through. I like your true crime podcasts. They're popular.
Yeah.
My wife may just become a fan and just listen to that stuff too. I might listen to that on the go. Definitely, ladies and gentlemen, check out Starving Zoe. All right, the link is in the chat. It's going to be in the description box below later on. Definitely check that out. Mr. Miller, it's great having you on the show here on Hard Talk Radio. Thank you so much. And I'm going to wrap up the stream here. But ladies and gentlemen, press the like button, share, subscribe, and y'all take it easy.